I head the DSCI Cybersecurity Center of Excellence at Hyderabad. We incubate about 55 cybersecurity startups there, and also we're going to have a stall here of our own downstairs. And we work with tech companies, with governments, academia and R&D, with user enterprises, and so on. So in this AISS, there is something for everyone in cybersecurity field. I invite you not just to this session, but to all the different wonderful sessions that are happening. Please do make the best of it, because you have an excellent assembly of all the top cybersecurity and privacy minds here. So with that, we get on to this session of Palo Alto, the POC on Cortex, an excellent product. So essentially automation. So when you talk about SOC automation, there are several parts. You want to reduce the strain. You want to reduce the burden. You want to reduce the false positives. And also leverage AI to the maximum extent possible to take intelligent decisions. And then finally, the SOAR, the incident response. How does Palo Alto manage to do all of these? So they have a top-notch product called Cortex, which helps do this. So they're a very reputed name, among the top few reputed names in the world in this subject. So we are very happy to have a masterclass by them. And I invite onto the stage Mr. Saurabh Shah, Abhishek Mahadik, Ankush Baveja, and Manoj Bharajwad. Can you please come onto the stage, please? Yeah. And with that, I hand it over to them. So please do take notes. A lot of good stuff coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sriram. Am I audible? Am I audible? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Loud and clear? Can someone tell me, an example, a classic example of an afterthought? Can you tell me what is the difference in the picture here and the person in front of you? I don't look like that anymore. That was taken 10 years ago. That's not my surname, by the way. My surname is S-A-H. So a little bit of a spelling mistake there. One thing which is still there, which is, I believe, I'm very, very fond of wearing ties. So that still remains. Just to introduce myself, I'm Saurabh Shah. I'm part of the Cortex business within Palo Alto's India region. I'm responsible to grow the business for West as a territory. And I've been given the opportunity to come and talk about Cortex, enlighten you a little bit on what Cortex is, etc. Have you guys heard of Cortex before we begin this session? Because I'm going to be just here for 10 minutes in the stage, and then probably my colleagues Abhishek and Manoj will take over, where they're going to do the more detailed workshop. But before we begin the workshop, 3 questions I have. Have you guys, anybody have heard of Cortex before here in the session? Oh, wow, great. Wonderful. Thank you for that. How many of you all managing SOC here, Security Operations Center? Awesome, great. So we have the right audience as well. And how many of you all have more than 10 technologies in your organization today? Almost everyone. All right, thank you. Thank you for confirming that. Before we proceed, I think we're going to have these giveaways at the end of our session. So please try and be as attentive as you can, so that when we ask you those questions, you are able to answer them rightly. You get some goodies. If you don't answer anyways, we are going to question you again, right? We're going to ask you the questions. Let's get started. How many of you all have more than 10 technologies in your organization? So I hope you can relate to this, right? Almost everyone here in your organization today would have more than 10 technologies. You would have cross paths. You might be using these technologies, or probably are in the process of adopting these, right? You know the reason behind this? Because security is evolving, technology is evolving, the threats are evolving, due to which security is also evolving, right? Now, to protect our organization against the adversaries, against the latest threats, what we do is we end up buying these technologies in silos, right? What does it result into? Gartner calls this as a gear acquisition syndrome. The thought process where we mentioned that more security is better, more products, more tools that we buy is going to give us better security. But think of it the other way around. When you try and, build this security facade where you end up buying too many siloed security tools, what it results is into alert fatigue, where basically your analysts who are working in the security operations are usually bombarded with the amounts of alerts, events, and incidents that pop up on your SIEM console or the SOC tool, whichever SOC tool that you may be using, right? And the notion that, most of the times you will have that, hey, my other organization, my competing organization is using this technology. I think we should also be having that. So this whole process of buying, adopting various cybersecurity, siloed security tools actually is good for you for that instant. But think of it in the longer term, it's only going to result in a lot of alerts, a lot of fatigue for your team eventually. And this is exactly an example behind it. Think of it in a manner where you've got myriad of solutions in place. If there is an incident which, if ever it occurs, today, any organization, the information security team is able to give you the entire detail as to how the incident or a breach occurred, from where it occurred, how did it happen. So you're able to get all the responses today from the information security team. But by the time you get these responses, it typically takes you a day, 2, 3, right? Now that's the turnaround time. That's the time for you to do the investigation and respond, right? So firstly, you're missing out on detection. If you do so, perhaps the response time, you go later and try and detect it. And when you identify it, you figure out that the response is after 3 days, 2 days, 4 days. By then, imagine the insider threat or the threat who's there in the organization, either an insider or an external threat, could have caused so much of havoc by either exfiltrating the data or spreading laterally into the organization in different set of servers and systems, right? And again, we have an approach which is very, very disjointed in nature. For example, all the network-related threats would typically be managed by the network team. So you may look into the network traffic analytics or an NDR, which used to be previously called as network-based anomaly detection tool. Identity is altogether a different ballgame. Most of the technologies that you today use are, the logs are usually ingested into the SIEM. So you would typically have one holy grail where you would go and see your, investigate your alerts and events. But identity is left separate. Most of the organizations who have now cloud adoption, they don't have the cloud detection and response coming into the SIEM because SIEM apparently is a little old-fashioned and it's not able to basically have the cloud detections and responses. So that's altogether a different disjointed data set, right? All of this, think of this as an example where you've got your large organization, thousands of alerts, 15,000, 20,000 alerts to monitor. Imagine how much time the burn ratio for your consultants or analysts is. They are just burning their time or wasting their time triaging the things which they are not supposed to be, right? They are actually viewing false positives. They are triaging false positives. So this is where mean time to detect and response comes into play. And the reason why this is all happening, because think of it this way, when the technologies have evolved, network, which used to be earlier called as perimeter gateway, perimeter security, has transitioned into zero trust and SASE today. Infrastructure, which was all used to be data center driven, is moving to the clouds. Now it's all multi-cloud, hybrid cloud environment. Technology is evolving. Endpoints, which we used to sell. I've been selling cybersecurity past 22 years. I started my career selling antivirus. Today we renamed it as an EDR, XDR, NDR, correct? So technologies have evolved, but there is one space, past 17, 18 years, still remain the same, which is the security operations center. The SIEM, which is the most important component in your SOC, is still the same. The technology is still dependent on correlation rules. The way you define your correlation rules, think of it manually, how many attack patterns can a human really think of? Attackers are using AI. Their usage of AI is more than we can even think of. So imagine the speed at which they are going to have attackers. Are we even at that scale? We need to have that scale in place. Hence, what Palo Alto did was, before we even went on to solve that particular problem, there's a simple analogy which I would like to give you all here, right? We've known that technology has always existed, but it's just that people or organizations have never adopted the technology. To give you an example, wheels were founded in the year 3500 before the Common Era or the before Christ era, right? But by the time those wheels we were still in the 1960s, taking our luggage, carrying it in our hands, right? By the time, and guess what? We landed in the moon before the wheels were put onto the luggage in 1972. We landed in the moon in 1969, but the wheels went onto the luggage in 1972. Till then, we were just carrying it. And more importantly, from 1972 to 1991, it took us 20 years to make those 2 wheels 4 wheels. So that instead of dragging it like this, now we can stroll it like this, right? So the technology always existed. It's just the adoption, the inertia to change, right? That is the reason why we are not able to come out of that mindset that, okay, if we have got a SIEM, it's better be an on-prem, it better be manual where you write a lot of correlation rules, think of the various attack types and attack patterns, and then it's gonna help me solve all the, help me identify, detect threats and events. Most important, 75% of the organizations globally use SIEM as a log management tool only for addressing your regulatory concerns. Very few organizations today use as a mechanism for detecting threats or alerting in advance. Okay? How did Palo Alto solve this problem? We started into this business with EDR. When we got into this business in EDR, we had an agent which we used to call it as Traps. Traps wasn't really that great back in those days, and we realized that Traps is not really that good. And we ended up acquiring 3-4 different technologies, and we got into this EDR space. We entered in the EDR space in 2018, early 2019. We were pretty late by then. CrowdStrike had the major market share. But we came into this space with XDR, Extended Detection Response, saying, why should threats be only related to endpoints or servers? It could be anywhere in your network, right? It could be in the cloud, it could be in your network. So XDR was launched, XDR was born. We've seen massive success with XDR. It's one of the best prevention tools in the industry and detection tool. We were literally nowhere in the Gartner quadrant, and within a short span of time now, we are in the leaders quadrant as well. Moving on to SOAR. SOAR was an acquisition from Demisto. If you've heard of Demisto before, we've renamed it as XOR, Extended Security Orchestration and Automated Response. One of the best products for SOAR, for orchestration and automation. And then Expanse, which is our attack surface monitoring tool. Now, these were 3 different siloed security tools which we were ourselves using it, Palo Alto in their own SOC, and we were also selling it to our customers. So now if you think of this, we are talking about platform, we are promoting platform, and we are ourselves using siloed security tools. Doesn't make sense, right? So we merged these siloed security tools together, right, and formed a platform called as XSIAM. Now, before we went ahead and took this to our customers, we tested it in our own SOC. We are the world's largest cybersecurity company today with the market share in terms of the revenues that we have and the market share. We are the brand that basically gets hit by the attackers and crackers and jackers the maximum. Our IP for Palo Alto today is highest in the world as against even Apple. So if there is a bug or a vulnerability that you typically find in an Apple, you get paid as a bug bounty or even as an attacker. But for Palo Alto, it's the highest if someone finds a vulnerability on our products. Now, think of it this way. It has to be, if we are adopting a security tool in our own SOC, it has to be the best in class so that we are able to not only protect us, we are able to protect the thousands of customers that we have, more than 90,000 customers. So we used it ourselves. We were using Splunk as a SIEM tool in our own SOC. We got rid of it. We were using Devo because Splunk was not able to kind of take this whole the amount of logs that we were ingesting in our data center, in our SOC, it was huge and humongous. So we went for a next-gen SOC. We went and adopted Devo. Didn't work for us. We were using ServiceNow for our case management ticketing. We got rid of that. We were using Tanium for endpoint management. We got rid of it. We formed this platform XIM, and we made sure that all these problems and hurdles that we faced in our own SOC, we phased out all those technologies, adopted these. Now, we figured out that in a good 2 years period when we tested it in our own SOC, but now we wanted to go ahead and take it out to our customers. So we globally adopted 10 customers. We identified 10 customers, and we signed up with them as design partners. And the success that we had, that when these customers did the POC, it was a good 7 months long POC that they did. And in this whole process, before we went go live in the year 2022 with XIM on 6th November, by 30th of October, 9 customers globally signed up onboarding XIM as their next-gen SOC transformation tool. And the 10th customer got onboarded after we went GA. Today, we have more than 85 or 90 customers globally who are successfully running their security operations on XIM. It's literally a rage at the moment. The way XIM is propelling Palo Alto itself together and our customers by securing their SOC, it's a story to be told. It's a story to be witnessed. To witness how this technology and this platform works, I'm going to call upon my stage my partner in crime, which is Abhishek. He's my SE. He heads the pre-sales function, is the solution domain consultant in this.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thank you, Abhishek. Yeah. You'll have to press this button. Thanks, everyone. Questions later.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm Abhishek. I'm part of a domain consulting team of a Palo Alto Networks. So I majorly help customers with their SOC transformation journey. So I think Saurabh has explained how we amalgamated different technologies that we had as a part of the Cortex portfolio. And we come up with the platform called as the Cortex XIM platform. So XIM is basically stands for Extended Security Intelligence and Automation Management. So it is our next generation SOC product. So when I specifically call about XIM, one thing and one important aspect that we have to look at, what all things we have consolidated as a part of this platform. So if customers are going with the Cortex XIM as a technology, so they are by default getting access to EPP, they are getting access to EDR, they are getting access to UEBA, they are getting access to identity analytics, network detection and response, full-fledged threat intel management along with the threat intel feed, which is again coming with the Unit 42, previously known as the autofocus threat intel feed, and incident management as a workflow. And what it makes sure, it is not only consolidating technology, but at the same time, there's a fundamental change that we are trying to bring as a part of the platform. So if you'll have seen the way security operation operates, the maximum time the automation is done at the last. So you will have alerts, either it will come as a part of the siloed technologies for you, and then you are consolidating everything as a part of the SOAR product, and you are applying intelligence or automation on the top of it. But that is not a solvable problem. So the challenge is, if let's say you have very multi-stage attack, where some APT groups are targeting you. So in that scenario, that intelligence needs to be bring, or that automation needs to be bring at the start of your investigation. So whenever any alert comes, there has to be automation, and then only analysts will be focusing on the set of alerts which are important. So what we have done with this product, we moved out of automation-led approach to automation-assisted approach, where the machine is at the focus of, or the center of our product, or intelligence is at the center, whereas only SOC team will come into the picture whenever it is absolutely required. So that is the whole idea behind it, how we can get rid of the mundane tasks which are typically performed by the SOC team. Now, as a part of this workshop, there are a couple of agenda we have. So let's understand what we are going to cover. So there are 3 major important aspects in any kind of intelligence solution. The fundamental is data ingestion. So what all capabilities we have as a part of the data ingestion. So that is something we are going to cover. Then we use AI called as a precision AI. So there are a lot of debate in terms of use of the generative AI, use of the supervised learning, use of the unsupervised learning, use of a semi-supervised learning. So Palo Alto has built his own AI called as a precision AI. It is all about the accuracy and the context. Because generative AI can give you suggestion, but it need not necessarily whatever suggestion it is giving, those are accurate. And with security, and specifically in the area of a SOC, you cannot hallucinate yourself. Your AI should not be hallucinating and giving you some result which is not in line with the actual threat that you are anticipating, and the actual threat either you are trying to protect or are trying to detect. So with this, let's get started with the workshop. So before that, what I want to cover is when we say data ingestion as a mechanism, because this is a common question I get from most of our customer, since it is a next generation SOC operation platform. So what all mechanism you have by which you will be able to ingest data? Since it is a cloud native, can you ingest a data from on-prem or my legacy system which is out there and doing set of job for me? So answer is yes. So we have a mechanism for that. So on the left hand side, if you can see, so there is a broker VM as a component. So broker VM as a component basically takes care of the various functionalities. Traditionally, those are very legacy in terms of syslog collection, netflow-based collection, file, then your databases. If you want to a remote pull of the Windows logs, so that can be handled there. Then we have an agent mechanism as well. So there are two kinds of agent we have in our product. One is a XDR agent. So XDR agent you can compare with any sort of EPP EDR agent. So what we do, with same agent you get all the prevention capabilities, at the same time you get all the detection capabilities as well. Then we have XDR collected. It is a lightweighted agent which basically gives you a mechanism to collect data from any one of the system by using a file format. So either it can connect to your Windows viewer or it can connect to any flat file, and you will be able to get access to this information. And for a cloud, we have a native connectors for it. So currently we have more than 800 plus integration in these specific areas, be it your AWS, be it your GCP, be it your Azure, we have an integration in place. So the message what I wanted to give you on this slide is, no matter where your data is, there is a mechanism available with the Palo Alto that data can be collected, ingested, and it is not only about the ingestion. After that, there are 3,000 plus machine learning models which are coming into the picture, which is making sure that the analytics will start working on it, the profiling will start building on it, and you will see a right detector. So this is with respect to all the, so far the slides, but right now I wanted to start with the demo, how product look like, what all feature, functionalities are there, and that will give you a first-hand look of a product. So I have access to two consoles right now. One console is where there are a couple of good examples I got, and one console where I have extended access so that there are some additional feature and functionality I'll be able to showcase. So this is our landing page. So this landing page is called as a command center. So there are two ways this landing page help us. So the left hand side, you can see what all data we are collecting from a platform. So for example, suppose if I want to double click on this specific part, I can simply click on it. It gives you a visual representation of what is happening in your environment. So if anything is red in color, it means there is some challenge. You have to click on it, you have to go, and you will be able to resolve it. If anything is green, means everything is working properly, so you don't need to be worried about. From a visual representation also, we are making sure that you have enough understanding of a product, so you don't need to go through that queries and grill through our data and identify if there is something wrong or not. So this is how we are making sure the data ingestion aspect is taken care. So now let's say if, like I said, right, there are different mechanisms available to ingest data. So tomorrow, let's say I'm deciding, let's start with the integration of the WAF. And for example, I'm using the FI as a product, and I want to understand whether I have a content available for a FI in terms of the integration or not. So I have to simply go to a marketplace. One of the key feature provided by the Palo Alto as a part of the product itself, it is as simple as using your mobile application, your Play Store, App Store. You have to go there, you have to simply search for it. So you can say, okay, I want to look for FI. So currently that content is already installed, but there is a right hand side, there is an option available, show if it is already installed. And I'll be able to see, okay, all the integration. So if I'll click on the FI as a ASM mechanism, which is nothing but your load balance, specifically your WAF. So it is asking me how you can configure that. For a configuration, what you have to do is you have to send this data to a broker using syslog mechanism. So what you can do is, when you will do this configuration and when you will install this pack, automatically data model will get applied on the top of it. And since these are the network related events, the analytics will kick in. So you don't need to go back and start writing a correlation rule, because it is impossible for you to write an unlimited number of the possibility for any kind of a scenario. You can write maximum 100 alert, 200 alert. And whenever there will be a change in a threshold, right, and it is impossible for you to detect, it can get deviated. So this is one mechanism where you can look at any sort of content. So this specific marketplace, if you'll see, right, there are different kind of the content packs are available. So if you can see here, there are alert field. Let me remove this. Yeah. So there are different alert fields, then there are playbooks, data model, integration, so and so forth. Right now, this product comes with more than 160 plus threat intelligence sources. So there are open source Intel feeds, then there are commercial Intel feeds, all those integrations available by default. You have to only pick and choose. If you have a commercial key, you can key in that information and you can directly go live with respect to integration. Now let's say with respect to a cloud, suppose I have to integrate something. So how it can be done? So on the top, you can see an option. So that option is called as a data source management. I can simply click on it. Once I'll click on it, then there is another option called as add data source. So what it will do is, it will use the pre-built SaaS application integration workflow I have. So for example, I want to integrate the O365 as a Mac integration. So basically you can use for O365, there are graph APIs available. Basis of that, you will be able to do integration. But right hand side, you can see that with this integration, you'll be able to getting access to a classifier, mapper, all the automation. So you're not only doing integration, but at the same time, what you're making sure is all the relevant content packs are required for you to be successful in terms of reducing mundane tasks. Those content packs will be also automatically getting integrated as a part of that same integration. So I'll take a pause here. Any question with respect to this specific area of a data ingestion? Mic. Can you give him mic?
Thank you. So my question was, in the whole package of SIEM, which has all the layers of EDR, SIEM and all, why the phishing solution was left alone?
Sorry, can you be louder?
Why the phishing solution was not added into the SIEM platform? Because
Phishing solution you are saying?
I see EDR is there, SIEM is there, and you have, I guess, attack surface reduction also. But I didn't saw phishing, which is a major problem nowadays.
See, as a part of the Cortex, we are working on email security as a roadmap. Right now, I won't be able to do a lot of commenting around it, but there are work going on. But for a current, at this moment, if you have any phishing solution, that can be integrated with this product. For example, Cisco, we have integration with. McAfee, we have integration with. There are a lot of phishing solution we have integration with. You can integrate that. But this is something we are also working as a part of the email security analytics area. But that is part of the near-term roadmap. But this is something we can discuss outside. But currently it is not available. But that is something been work on.
So I have noticed that Palo Alto has acquired some business from IBM Curadar.
QRadar.
So is it something behind the Curadar piece as well, like behind the monitoring, or it is only the Palo Alto product which is going right now?
No, there is nothing from QRadar we are using. The exam component are completely different. QRadar is something a strategic engagement where we, if customer is a QRoc customer, he has been given an option to migrate to a exam. So there is no technology from QRadar currently we are using as a part of the exam.
So what will be the future of this partnership with Curadar?
Future what?
Partnership with Curadar, what we are going to do. Let's say I'm using IBM Curadar. Is there anything which I can integrate with my Palo Alto or Curadar, two things together?
There are ways to do certain things that can be discussed, but it has required some understanding of your current architecture, and there has to be some transition that we can plan. Means how we can migrate from Curadar to Cortex XAM as a technology and keep certain piece on the Curadar if it is on-prem. But that can be discussed in terms of.
Okay, thank you.
Now,
so Abhishek, I'll take that and add a few points. So there are two things, sir. One is QRoc, which is on cloud, and another is on-prem. QRoc, anyways, we are migrating everything to XIM now. As far as the integration or what we are taking from QRadar is, so QRadar has a lot of legacy of integrations and correlations which will pull down and bring it in our XIM. So that's what we are trying to pull in. Whatever good things of QRadar, that will be pulled in the product itself. And on-prem, we are in discussions as Abhishek mentioned, so we can have an offline discussion and check the road forward.
So now, if I'll move forward, right? So one of the interesting thing what you'll see, right? So when data is getting ingested, there are approximately 77 alerts, but only 50 incidents. So there is a one specific machine learning mechanism that we use that is called as a SHARP. It has been used in the pharma industry for ages to monitor and do a feature extraction of a different samples when they do any sort of vaccine test or any kind of medical test to identify what are those commonality between different medicines and what are the pattern at which, what is the efficacy they can achieve with respect to any sort of a medicine. So similarly, what we do when we capture these alerts, so these alerts are then getting converted by using that same mechanism to an incident. So there will be an auto grouping which will happen. So auto grouping will not happen only because there is a common IP address. There is a common host name. Because see, whenever attack will happen, the attack path is very complex. It is not very straightforward. It will not move from one node to another node as is. There are different mechanisms. Sometimes there are encrypted channel as well, and it is really difficult to identify those channels. So those sort of feature extractions have been used to make sure whenever that transition will happen, that is a self-explanatory why we have categorized that. And I'll explain that as a part of the incident investigation, how that categorization happened and what features we have extracted. But this views gives you understanding of what is the core of the Cortex XAM, what is happening when. So whenever there is any alert which are coming in, if there is any automation getting applied, any sort of enrichment happening, that will be available to your SOC team with respect to a live feed. So that your team will be aware product is working, what all things it has added as a part of the incident. If any specific alert got added as a part of the specific incident, what was the reason behind it? Everything is available as a part of the same console itself. So the whole idea is how we can bring the explainability as a part of the product within Cortex XAM, so that whatever information is available, that will give some level of additional enhancement to a SOC analyst so that he'll be able to take a decision faster. So that is the whole idea behind it. And on the top of it, the second concept is out of 50 incidents, how many incidents then we can automate? So and this is again one of the questions I get from a lot of customers. Can we achieve this on the day one? The answer is no. It's a process. It will take you 3 to 6 months to reach to a certain level where maximum thing you will be able to automate, so that your team will be only working on the selected set of incident. Those could be very handful. For example, suppose you will be able to take care of the 70-80% of automation within your environment. then on an average for a day, you'll be working on only 10 incidents so that your team can basically give enough time to all those sort of investigation, and that will help them. And tool will also help them in terms of a different utility available to fast track that investigation. Again, that will cover as a part of the investigation workflow, what all tools, mechanisms available, even though there is a complex file data, how quickly it can be investigated by using product's capability itself. So with that, I'll move to a next section, which is a incident. You have a question?
Abhishek Nilesh this side. Yeah. So I have a basic question. I'm sorry if I missed out something. It is given as a platform, as a SIM as a service, or it's a prem solution?
It's a SaaS service. The product will be managed by the customer. Again, there are different offerings. We have MDR offering from a Palo Alto as well, but the product will be available for a customer to manage. So the entire control will be available with the customer, including the data residency and everything.
Okay, so basically it's a SaaS. It's like a service, like a similar service. A couple of follow-up questions. So is it an agent-based or agentless? What exactly? How do you get the data ingested? Is it like through agents or agentless?
Both the mechanisms are supported. For example, it comes into a two variant. One variant is a full-fledged exam solution where if you are using EPP ADR as a mechanism, it will come with the agent. But let's say you are using some third-party EDR provider and you just brought that product before, let's say 3-6 months, and you don't want to replace your EPP EDR for now, then you can go with the NG SIM as a module within that. What benefit you will get with that mechanism is you can use the native capabilities and directly integrate that data without using any sort of agent. For example, suppose I want to ingest data from a CrowdStrike, I can connect to their APIs and collect that data as well. So that also can be done.
And the last question is, if we are deploying agents, then what is the latency? Because we are integrating data from all the major sources. So what is the latency, and how do you see that latency as compared to other industry your competitors?
The pooling frequency for us for agent is the 300 seconds. So it's a 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes we collect data, send it to a cloud. It again goes via mechanism called as a broker VM. So in your organization, you will have an intermediate VM servers. It will connect to that and then it will go to a cloud. So 5 minutes is something you can consider. 300 seconds is a minimal. No, it's a very compressed. We have checked with set of a customer. The compression is approximately 1:16 or 17. So for example, when we compress the data on an average, for a day, one agent collects 200 MB of a data. But when it gets compressed on a machine, it becomes 6 to 7 MB. So that level of compression we are doing. So now moving to okay.
Sorry if I'm interrupting. I have a few questions for you. First is the dashboard you are showing. In the assets, are these assets customizable using this HMI, or it is done in database?
Which asset you are referring?
All the assets that you have got logs from into your SIM solution. So
yeah.
So
there are way by which we discover the asset. So we have an attack surface management. So if there is anything external facing here within your environment, we can discover that and we can create an inventory as well. Let's say you are using ServiceNow CMDB as a mechanism. We can connect to that, pull that asset as well. Third mechanism is when our agents or a broker VMs are deploying in your environment, it does a network scanning. It will identify what all asset you have as a part of your network. And whatever traffic flows from that, also we identify asset and we identify role of that asset as well. So within a product, we don't need to go and explicitly define this is a mail server. Product is smart enough to understand basis of the traffic that we are seeing, it is a mail server or a domain controller. And those profiling done by using certain supervised machine learning model which understand basis of traffic, this is a role this product has.
okay, got that. Second thing, the queries that you are using for resolution of these alerts, are these adaptable or you are enriching this on ongoing experience? How do you enrich these queries?
This queries, we use a SQL query language. It is nothing but the SQL kind of a mechanism. So those who are very comfortable with the SQL, they'll be able to use the same queries. Nothing complex in that. The product itself gives you a lot of mechanism where if even though you do not have a knowledge of query, you can drag and drop, select option, right click and convert that data into a query. So you don't need to do that.
It's basically GUI based, you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, and what about the OT part? Have you ever managed any OT part in this same?
Yeah, we have done that. So we have an integration with the OT providers as well. So there are risk-related, asset discovery-related use cases can be achieved. Along with that, there is one use case also we have achieved with respect to EPSS. So it is exploitability scoring system. So that also we can define by using mechanism where we can connect to those endpoints and discover the exploitation ratio as well.
The last question is that you have shown there is one automated ticket resolution and one is manual. Can you give any use case for that?
So I'll cover that because anyways, that entire investigation workflow will cover now. I think that will give an understanding to a lot of questions anyways you are asking. So I'm taking
one last question. Just in continuity with Sir's question here, does your agent work as a driver or it just push the raw logs all of itself to your main server?
Basically, it collects all raw logs. It collects the EDI telemetry if you are using XDR agent. If you are using XDR collector, then it can connect to specific channel. It can be Windows channel, Linux channel. So in Linux, it's not a channel, it's a flat file. It will read from it and it will send whatever input you will give.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I'm taking one example of the incident. So this is a APT attack. And if you look closely, right? So let me zoom it a little bit. Yeah. So whenever you'll come to the incident, first thing will be visible to you is a overall score of it. So this is a smart score I'm referring to. So smart score basically generated by using SHAP as a mechanism. The idea behind it, what all reason for generating this specific risk. So what is a rarity? That is one of the mechanism. What type of alerts are identified? What type of sources are identified? So these are all things are taken into an input to come up with some scoring mechanism. If in case you have a specific scoring mechanism within your environment, you will be able to override that as well. So that option also given to you as a part of the customization. But this is something comes by default with the product where what you can make sure is you can rely completely on this. And this is going to be one of the benchmark for you in terms of making sure you will start your investigation. So whenever you have to prioritize, you can dependent on this. Second most important thing is to look at is the MITRE. So again, MITRE you can go at the very granular level. So if I'll click here, it will give me a subcategories as well. So this is also very important for me to understand whenever I look at any sort of incident. So in this specific scenario, if I see, right, I have a lot of alerts starting from execution to exfiltration. So it becomes a case of the multi-stage sort of attack where there is a possibility of a compromise as well. If there is a exfiltration on the alternate channel, means there is a data leak. So that possibility is also there. Second thing is if I'm doing a execution and if I'm using WMIs or command scripting, it means I'm able to successfully bypass by using certain mechanism within environment. And after that, I'm able to establish the full foothold in the environment by using some scheduled tasks. So it is really critical for me to investigate such kind of an incident, right? So now with that, how it can be done? So one way is product basically helps you. So if let's say you have been working on this technology, then product itself will run some level of automation on behalf of you. For example, if you can see here, these two playbooks are executed automatically. So it identifies something as a malicious, as a payload within that specific data which is collected, and it has executed local analysis as a malware as one of the playbook and wildfire as one of the playbook. So let's say if I'm specifically clicking on this, so it will take me to that playbook. Yeah. So it basically went for an enrichment verdict. Then it has basically calculated by using dbot score. After calculating that, it has raised the severity of it. Then in case you wanted to escalate it to some ticketing tool, that can be done. So a lot of automation in terms of even you wanted to get rid of that specific file, delete that file, or even contain that specific thread, all those can be automated. And best part is whatever activity is happening within a product, everything is documented as a part of the war room. So it is how it helps is, let's say there is a change in the shift or the roster and some team member is basically coming and starting working on the same case. So he'll have all the inputs are in place in terms of that specific activity. So far what all things have been done. And then if he has required certain inputs, he'll be able to take a help of his team member as well. So now, for example, I have identified something as a part of the IP address. If I'll click from here itself, I'll be able to go to some specific threat intel management view as well. And this is not malicious, this is a Google IP address, but what I wanted to show you is you'll be able to go to a specific threat intel view. It will show you where all these IP address is present in terms of your all alert and incident. If it is a hash value or if it is any exe file, it will tell you globally where that hash has been exploited, what is the relationship of that, what is the threat actor applicable, so on and so forth. All the information is required for any sort of threat analyst that will be available to you. See, and this kind of the information basically helps you in terms of threat investigation, where it can make sure the specific piece you want to investigate that can be done with the ease. Next part is whenever any incident happens, all the key asset and artifact are automatically enriched by using virus total, autofocus, different kind of the threat intel feed we have in a system. Basis of that, you will have a verdict available. Again, by using that, you will be able to prioritize, and it will help you to understand the scope of your attack. So, for example, how many machines have been compromised? How many users have been affected as a part of this specific incident? In case you want to block specific machine or quarantine that machine, that can be done by using specific direct commands. So those kind of the features are also available within a product. So now I want to show you something interesting before I'll hand it over to Ankush. So let's say you have a scenario where your team is working on any one of the investigation and you came across some file. So certain or any one of the regulatory body has given you a file, and that file is consist of 100 of record or 1000 of record or 10,000 of record. And now let's say for a minute you have to investigate that. So with our product, the benefit is right. You have to simply drag and drop that file here, upload file here. So I have basically uploaded this file. As I uploaded this file, after that it is telling me what is the intra ID this file has. So I can go here, I can copy this ID. Yeah. And I can run different sort of commands. So if you can see here, right, these are all commands are available. You can, by using this command, right now I am using very simple command. So I am saying, okay, extract indicator from text file, then intra ID is equal to so what I'm saying is, okay, go to that file, start enriching and capturing whatever information is relevant within that file itself, and it will start capturing that information. So you can see here, right? So that file has, let's say, 100 to 100 records, but out of those, these are the important thing for you. So there are certain hash values, certain IP address, and this information also gets enriched, and after some time, you'll be able to see that whether it is malicious, benign, whether there is a global relationship of that. So all those sort of information is also available. This is only one example. Imagine we have a 800 plus integration, and every integration comes with at least 30, 35 such commands. So kind of, universe we have in terms of making sure the right tools, command, utilities are given to a SOC analyst so that, they'll be able to perform their activity very seamlessly and efficiently. Yeah. Can we get mic here? Mic. Okay.
Thank you. Will it be able to decode a file also, like how we do it in CyberChef?
Sorry?
Will it be able to decode the file as well?
Decode.
Yeah, obfuscated file. Will it be able to do that as well?
Yeah, so key is available, that also. See, encoding, decoding also you can do.
It
So
can
that
do
also available.
Just like CyberChef.
Yeah, you can do that. So
is it like a magic
typically as
thing
a part
or-
of the forensic, different tools which are required, right? Those scripts are available within a product.
Yes.
And as a part of the user dashboard, you can make it available so that, see, this is one example I've showed. You don't even need to do that. So the product is configured in a such a way that under the every alert, there is a tab available where you can literally upload this file.
All right.
And it will start automatically in
So
this.
the
Since I didn't have access to that specific tenant, complete access, so I had shown you somewhere else.
So the
How is
difficult
it?
part, what I experienced in decoding a file, is to find out which format it is and drop
Yeah,
it
that you
or
can
with-
do. So moment you upload, it tells you what file format is. If you have seen here, right?
And while Abhishek is showing that, so that's where the playbooks will come into the picture.
Yeah.
So,
if you can
once
see here, it is sort of decoding.
All right. So it does it on its own, right? It
Yeah, so
identifies
yeah.
which encoder was used and it places that in and then gives you the information.
And you can make it part of a playbook. Means what is the base minimal automation you want to apply,
All right.
and you can make it part of that. So I think 2,000 plus scripts are available which you can leverage for this kind
So
of
we
things.
can use it. Maybe if we find a file which we do not know and is unique and found it first time on all our environment,
That also
we
you
can
do.
pull out this information and put it directly in IOC using a SOAR, right?
Yeah, that can be done. You can literally block it as well. So for example, I think you asked about the email security solution, right? Let's say you have received some file as a part of the phishing, and now you wanted to search that file on all the endpoint.
Correct, yeah.
That also you can do in a one click.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
That also you can do by using one command where it will go on all the endpoint, it will search, it will give you a return back.
Sure.
And basis of that, you can do a threat hunting, literally. And within a fraction of minute, if you'll configure it properly, you'll be able to see all the results.
All right.
What all endpoints are affected, where all you are seeing it, and how you can do a containment as well.
Yeah, this is interesting.
So with that, in interest of time, I'm calling Ankush here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Abhishek. So
Thank you so much.
So a couple of things, I think because of lack of time, we were not able to show today, like data stitching, right? So we have the ability to actually correlate data automatically from a raw standpoint. So if you are bringing in firewall data, if you're bringing in proxy data, we can actually correlate that with the EDR data. And that gives you the ability to run AI on top of it, right? So it is not just about alert aggregation that we are talking about, which is where XIM is different. We are talking about raw data stitching. And we have a workshop tomorrow. So if you see the QR codes here, you can scan for that workshop. It's a hands-on workshop. You will get a student guide as well. And we'll be able to walk you through some of those data stitching scenarios. The pyramid that Abhishek just showed from an automation standpoint, right? So it is not, the automation is not just about SOAR, which is on the latter part of the incident. Automation starts when we receive the first alert. So how are we aggregating alerts into incident? How are we creating those smart scores? So automation is end-to-end, starting from the first alert that we receive to the response, right? So that's the other big difference in terms of this is not a SOAR platform, right? We are talking about SOC as a platform. So it's end-to-end. And again, you can experience that in tomorrow's workshop. I think what we'll do is, again, we'll have a couple of questions and we'll sort of hand out some of the goodies. So the first question that I have is, what is the full form of XIM? Yeah, please. Awesome. Yeah. So we'll give it now. Yeah, please, if you can come on stage. So I think you understand why we are not calling it a SIM, right? Because we are, yes. And it's extended security. That means that it is covering all the data sources that we are bringing into the sort of ecosystem. Thank you, sir. this is I mean, I would want somebody to sort of talk about this from a SOC standpoint. What are the two major problems? And we covered, I think, Saurabh covered that in the initial part of the pitch, that SOC teams are right now struggling with.
Alert fatigue due to
Okay,
more number of alerts.
Alert fatigue and tools overloading. You have too
Yeah.
many integration pieces with unique caveats and too many alerts with a lot of false positives.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. So it is alert fatigue, which is because of having a lot of different tools. And the other one is speed of response, right? So the amount of time the analyst is spending from an investigation standpoint, that is the time attacker is within your environment. And if you have 10 different tools, which I think a lot of you guys raised hand, then how many screens your analyst is actually doing that investigation on? And if you can come on stage, please. So that's the amount of time attacker is within your environment.